Welcome back to another episode of the Tracy Take. Today we are talking about the San Francisco 49ers. But before we get started, if you have not already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and that notification bell so we can send you a message every time we post a video. With that being said, let's get right into what I think is going to be the number one team in the NFC West, and that is the San Francisco 49ers. So they did lose a few pieces this offseason. Uh, Richard Sherman, Solomon Thomas, Kendrick Bourne. Uh, the first two are probably the most impactful, but
hmm
I also think that they have a bunch of young people that are ready to kind of step up into their roles. And they also added a few guys on the offensive side of the ball that I think are going to have some pretty big impacts this year and in the future. But I want to get your opinion. What do you think of the 49ers going into 2021?
Well, I'll say that I didn't know too much about their injury bug last year before
Mhm.
really just kind of this video and doing some research. But I didn't realize all their skilled position players
Mhm.
that are starting, except I think minus Muhammad Sanu. I don't know if he got hurt last year, but
He wasn't
almost
there.
every
He was in Detroit.
no, I know that. I just didn't know
Okay, okay, okay.
if he played all season. Um, Only Brandon Ayuk played more than 10 games last year. He
Yeah.
only played 12. So, but Raheem Mostert, the projected starting running back, which I believe he is over Trey Sermon, only played 8 games. Jimmy
Yeah.
Garoppolo, as we know, only played 6 games. Debo Samuel's only played, I believe, 8 games. And same with George Kittle. So I look at that like, holy cow! How did they even win 4 or 5 games last year? Let alone on the defensive side of the ball, they did lose Kerry Hyder, who was their leading sack producer last year. He had 8.5 sacks, but they lost them. They lost him, I believe, to Seattle. But even the other guys though that played last year, I think minus Richard Sherman, they're bringing back a lot of their 2019 Super Bowl starters. So
Yeah.
it's going to be very interesting to see if they can continue that trend. And 2020 was just a little bump in the road,
Hmm.
or are they all going to regress as just time off and injuries just kind of have worn them down?
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing for me. They need to adopt the TB12 method or something because they had some serious injury problems last year.
hmm
But going into 2021, all those guys are back. And if they can stay healthy, I, they're easily a top four team in the NFL.
I think so.
Easily.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
it just with the way Kyle Shanahan can do his offense,
mhm.
and just how much of a mastermind he is. Like these names don't really pop out at you. I think as just prime time players. Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle does a little bit, but I feel he's been with
Yeah.
the franchise for a long time. But they just work so well within the system. They can be
Yeah.
very quiet. Heck, even Brandon Ayuk, he only played, as I said, in 12 games last year, but he had 748 yards. I think easily could have been a 1,000 yard receiver. Uh,
Yeah.
Same with Debo Samuel as well.
Hmm.
And so just
Yeah.
the offense is just perfect. Essentially, like he's always able to get guys open. It seems, and they have so many just solid weapons. It's just going to be the health issue, and it's going to be the injury bug.
Hmm. Yeah. And one of the things that I think will really kind of help this offense, even if there are injuries at the skill position players, is the addition of Alex Mack to this offensive line. That
Mhm.
now makes four offensive linemen on that O line are first round picks. Two are perennial All Pros in Alex Mack and Trent Williams. Then right tackle Mike McGlinchey was a first round pick a few years ago, and they also added Aaron Banks, who was a teammate of McGlinchey's at Notre Dame. So that offensive line is going to be really solid this year,
Yep.
and that is going to pave the way for whichever quarterback they do decide to go with.
Mhm.
I know Trey Lance has kind of been hyped up a lot, but I still expect Jimmy Garoppolo to play the majority of the season if he can stay healthy. And then skill position wise, both of their receivers in Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk are really young, and I think that they're kind of budding stars into the league. And George Kittle is one of, I guess, three tight ends in the league that uh, are probably considered elite. So
Mhm.
that offense is really scary. And then you couple it with that defense. Nick Bosa last year missed the entire season with a torn ACL. They have first round pick from 2019, Javon Kinlaw at defensive tackle. They did lose Richard Sherman in the secondary that I kind of already said, but with a not as promising secondary market this year in free agency, they were able to re-sign a guy who probably has my favorite name in all of the NFL, and that is Jaquiski Tart. Uh, and so they were able to bring him back, and also free safety Jimmy Ward. It will be back as well. So they do have some secondary depth. I just think those corner spots are not going to be as strong as they have been.
Yeah.
So
hmm
yeah,
Well, and it was so it's last year they did regress defensively, but I think a lot of that was due to injuries and
yeah,
also a lot of the COVID restrictions. They were 17th in the NFL. But if you go back to their 2019 season when they were healthy and there weren't any restrictions, they were eighth in overall points allowed in
yeah.
2019. So if they can get back to that production, but actually, I wouldn't even say. I think a middle of the road defense for them. Obviously they'd want to have better defense, and I think they would
Yeah.
be better than average, just with the bringing back all these pieces. But if their offensive skill pieces can stay healthy, they're going to put up a lot of points.
Yeah.
And that's what they're going to need to do. It's going to be beneficial for them because they do have a little bit of a weaker schedule, I would say, in
Mhm.
comparison to the other teams in the NFC West. As thankfully, just because I think they finished last in the division, correct?
Mm, yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They did, but kind of moving into the schedule though, it's like they're starting out with games against the Lions and the Eagles. Two games I think that they should win fairly easily.
Yeah.
And if just as an overview, like they got to play the Rams twice, but they play the Packers as well. I don't think they play really too many other tough teams
Uh-huh.
on their schedule. Nothing that they can't handle.
Yeah, I will say towards the end of the season they have to play Tennessee in Tennessee,
Mhm.
which will always be kind of tough. And then they have to play Indianapolis in Week 7, but that's at San Francisco, and that'll be kind of on the borderline of when Carson Wentz comes back or not.
Yeah,
But even then, it'll probably take him a few weeks to get back in the groove. So I have them actually going 15-2 this season, 5-1 in the division, and I have them losing that game in Tennessee. But I I think they have a really easy schedule set up. They play Green Bay, but it's in San Francisco and it's in week 3. And I think that Green Bay offensive line is not going to be nearly what it has been after they lost a few pieces, and Brian Bulaga and Corey Linsley both left in
yep,
free agency. And so the offensive line is going to be primed to be taken advantage of by the San Francisco front four. Uh, they do have an early bye week, which is the only thing that is not really conducive, I guess, for them for a late playoff push. However, uh, they may be so far ahead that they might just be able to take week 18 off. So,
yeah,
which is kind of what I have them doing. So, I mean, again, I think that San Francisco is primed to have an outstanding season this year, and if Trey Lance can play too and get us some game experience, whether Jimmy G gets hurt or they're just so far ahead in games, that's just all the better
yeah.
for the future development of that team beyond this season. So
Yeah. It'll be very interesting because Jimmy Garoppolo has had bouts with the injury bug,
mhm.
so it'll be very interesting to see how that kind of plays out. I believe it was Nick Mullins was their backup quarterback that's been with the 49ers for a long time. Is Nick
Mhm.
Mullins or CJ Beathard?
Well, both, but Nick Mullins was the one that was primarily playing last year.
And he left, right?
Yeah,
He's
he's
with
on
the
Philadelphia.
is he on Philadelphia now? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, So it'll be interesting to see how that works if they even give Trey Lance a shot. Something that we'll get into at an upcoming episode here
Hmm.
about Trey Lance. But really, for me, I look at this schedule overall, and it's such a weak schedule that if they can stay healthy, just the caliber of talent that is on their team, um, they should be able to. Sorry about that. They should be able to obviously win double-digit games, but kind of I would think run away with the division just depending on how good, how healthy they can be, and also
Yeah.
think about the Rams a little bit as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Uh, I think Kyle Shanahan will have this offense averaging high 20s, low 30s
Hmm.
a game. And I mean, I'm excited to watch him play. It's going to be exciting. So,
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a great. It's going to be a great NFL season. This is our last
yeah.
season preview, and so for all for everyone that stuck around and watched all these, we appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not already. Feel free to like this video if you didn't like what we had to say. Feel free to comment, and we'd love to hear all feedback. But looking forward to the preseason. I think we already had the Hall of Fame game. The Falcons playing the Tennessee Titans on Friday. I think other games start on Thursday, don't they?
Yeah. Patriots are playing Washington on Thursday. And there's a few other ones. So,
Yeah. I think specifically since we're still on the 49ers video, 49ers are playing the Chiefs this Saturday, August 14th. So feel
mhm.
free to check that out. And also feel free to check out our video on Trey Lance and his performance right after the game. So, anyways, thanks again for sticking around and good luck this season, Niners fans.